Welcome to Bespoke Word. Last week I asked you all to send me your questions regarding bespoke, menswear, garments in general, sartorial things in general, and today I'm endeavoring to answer all of them right now. Let's not waste any time, let's jump right in with the first question. Should you ever button up the second button in a 2-button suit jacket? No, that's an easy one. I would say don't button anything below the top of your hips. And if you don't know where that is, if you were to draw a straight line through your navel, that horizontal line, you shouldn't button anything below that. There are exceptions to this rule, and I would say one of them being if you had a very long overcoat that had buttons below your optimal buttoning point, especially if it's a very, very cold day. I'm not going to judge anyone walking down the street to stay warm. And here we go with question number 2. Are the side seams on trousers done by hand, or are they done with machines? They're done by machines. This is another easy question. They're done by machines purely for strength and accuracy. It's not to say that you can't sew a very, very, very straight line by hand, but the problem is it's just easier with a machine. And that's it. Question number 3. What is the fastest that a bespoke suit can get done? This is a tricky one. This is I saved the best for third, I think. Officially, a fully constructed bespoke suit should take about 100 hours. Now, most of that time is committed to pad stitching the canvas, if you're making canvases completely by hand, the undercollar, the buttonholes, attaching the collar completely by hand, all of the handwork that goes into a suit for the when the basings are removed to make sure that everything doesn't fall apart. I mean, you can go off on tangents like attaching the liner completely by hand on the inside, making the sleeve heads by hand, padding the lapels by hand, and etc., etc., etc. Those are just a few examples. There's far, far, far more ways to incorporate hand stitching into a garment, and in this case specifically a jacket. But there are ways to cut down those numbers, which is having people do specific operations. So it's not like I would cut a suit and sit down and make every single part. That would for sure take 100 hours, but what you can do is cut a suit, bundle it, give it to someone else to prepare the first fitting, perform the first fitting, and then after that's done, I would recut it again, or the cutter would recut it again, and then someone would pre-prepare the sleeves, someone would pre-prepare the lining, the undercollar, and those things would get passed on and assembled as you go, depending on what department it is. So it does still technically take that amount of time, but from the outside looking in, you are getting a garment that is made in stations and then assembled like as it goes. So you can kind of cut down the lead time on a suit by having other people specialize in pockets or waistcoats or hanging sleeves or that kind of thing. And in certain cases too, bespoke suits take a long time because either people are ordering multiples at a time, or if you're very lucky and you have a lot of customers, then the lead time is incorporated to make sure that no one is getting it too late. And the exception to that is if someone paid for a rush, then it would go to the top of the pack, and then people would just work on it with that kind of priority in mind. So there it is. It's a difficult question to answer, but there is some logic to it. Last question for today, question number 4. Is the 3-inch lapel fad still on vogue? When are people going to pay enough cloth for a proper lapel? Okay, so this is my objective answer. Yeah, it's still in. I mean, when you approach a clothier or a bespoke factory or a bespoke tailor and you want to have something made, you are completely in control of all the details. So if you want to have it's unadvisable, but inadvisable, I mean, but a 1-inch lapel, yes, you can do that, but it's not in the zeitgeist of suits these days. I would say giving the customer that amount of control, it's fun to sort of dive into the many, many details that all has to go into your finished garment. Now, the subjective answer is no, I do not like 3-inch lapels. In fact, the one that I'm wearing right now is 4.5 inches from the roll to the tip of the peak. I do like very, very full-bodied suits, and what I mean by that is a very prominent and pronounced chest, a big rope shoulder, wide lapels, a taller waistband. These kind of things I gravitate towards because when I first started my menswear journey, there were none of these things in stores. It was just very narrow lapels, and this is going back 20 years ago. So I mean, when I first started to look at clothes, that was the only thing available. In fact, the reason why I believe I started gravitating towards wider and just bigger lapels and more emphatic looking suits is because when I would do most of my thrift shopping at Value Village or stores around my hometown, most of the donated clothing was from the 70s. And I think that really, really influenced me and my modern choices for buying, not thrifted clothes. There's nothing wrong with that. But if I have the choice to get a wider lapel, I will definitely jump at that. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is now the end of the video. If you guys have any questions you'd like to ask me, all you have to do is just DM me on Instagram or respond to a post that I put up or a story that you can type your question in. They get sent to me, I'll produce a video. I'd like to keep making these because I think it's a little bit more personal than just typing back an answer and displaying it as a story. But thank you guys so much for sending in the first wave of questions. I'm really looking forward to the second, third, fourth, whatever, as long as this goes and as long as you're still enjoying them. Take care of yourself and take care of each other, and I'll see you guys next week.